Thank you all for joining us this evening so much. Everyone here and everyone out there watching via Crowdcast. Very much appreciated. It's really wonderful to be celebrating some recent poetry publications. Hello There by DeWitt Clinton and The Beer Line by Sue Blaustein. My name is Mike Wendt. I'm the program director here at Woodland Pattern. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that in Milwaukee, we live and work on traditional Potawatomi, Ho-Chunk, and Menominee homelands along the southwest shores of Michigami, part of North America's largest system of freshwater lakes, where the Milwaukee, Menominee, and Kinnickinnic rivers meet, and the people of Wisconsin's sovereign Anishinaabe, Ho-Chunk, Menominee, Oneida, and Mohican nations remain present. We further acknowledge the grave evil colonialism introduced to these lands through genocide as well as slavery, but also via racist and xenophobic beliefs, laws, and practices that continue to inflict harm upon Black, Brown, and Indigenous lives. We honor those who have lived and do live now at these intersections of identity and experience and are committed to the active dismantling of white supremacy. Many thanks once again to you all. Thank you, Sue. Thank you, DeWitt, for celebrating these books with us, these fine books right here, which we do, of course, have for sale out there in the bookstore, so we hope you'll come visit us after the reading, or if you're watching on Crowdcast, you can come in when we're open or order online, woodlandpatternbookcenter.com. So I hope that you'll leave here with both of these books, and we have others by DeWitt and Sue as well. And then I also hope that you'll consider joining us for some upcoming events. There's going to be an event for the closing of this current exhibition, and She Was Love, paintings by Akindele John. That'll be Friday evening, August 4th, in partnership, as is the case for the exhibition in total, in partnership with Genre Urban Arts. So that is 6 p.m.? Oh, it's Thursday. Thursday, August 4th. My days of the week. I'm still learning my days of the week. Bear with me. 6 to 9, Thursday, August 4th. Here, a celebration of this exhibition, which has been wonderful to have up in the gallery. So, of course, many thanks to Genre Urban Arts, Nikisha, and Akindele John, of course. And our next Poetry in the Park, this one I do know, it's Tuesday, August 9th, which will feature readings by Sass Denny, Paul Dricka, Nikki Walschlager, and Ed Roberson. That should be fantastic. It's at Juneau Park, so not here, but at Juneau Park. And that'll start at 6:30. Okay, so this reading will feature Sue and DeWitt reading, alternating, and DeWitt will have a little bit to say about that format. But there will be a time after the readings for questions as well. So anyone here, and then also out there, if you're watching on Crowdcast, you can put questions into the chat, and we can read those on your behalf. And so you can also participate. So consider questions you might have for these two poets. And now I'm thrilled to welcome Sue Blaustein and DeWitt Clinton. We're grateful to have these two poets celebrate their books here. In the Beer Line, if you leave with a copy, or maybe you already have one, you'll be treated to Sue's clear-eyed and ambulatory lyrics, where through close attention to detail and a seamless weaving of the seasonal and commercial, she notices the gradual changes that come to define the place one lives. And in Hello There, you'll find DeWitt sharing intimate and candid narratives, meditative poems that face down the precarity of life with care and humor, but not resignation, quote from the book. But for now, let's not appreciate the art of losing things. Really excited to hear you both read. Thank you so much.
Hi, everybody. We are going to be performing a 3-act play this evening. The first act will feature Act 1, Scene 1, Sue. I'll read the second scene. We'll take a short break, 5 minutes or so. Get your legs back, get some fresh air if you like, drinks available in the city, whatever. We'll come back for an Act 2, which will be here in Woodland Pattern. And then I'll make an announcement about Act 3, which is off-site in Shorewood. And you are all invited to come. So enjoy the play.
It's really nice to see everybody here, and whoever's out there in television land. My first poem is The Arrow of Time. What's before? What is after? Is now always stuck between the two? Could they ever change places? How would it matter? How would we know? A horse named Canball the Flowers. When I was 5 or 6, I was crazy for horses and words. My mother told me about thoroughbreds and the meaning of pedigree, why owners gave them long and pompous names. She'd open the New York Times to find the lineup at Belmont, read the silliest ones out loud, and we'd laugh. Something we shared. As years passed, I'd remember or misremember a name. Was there a horse named Canball the Flowers? I let it drop, but then the internet was invented. 43 when I got connected, my first burning question for the web, was there ever a horse named Canball the Flowers? DOS search engines in the 90s didn't think for you like Google. Courier type on a black background. I strategized keywords. I was 5 or 6, so 1961, 62. Races in New York, so would be Aqueduct or Belmont. I had to tweak my terms repeatedly, but finally I learned there was a chestnut stallion named Candy Spots and a fast mare whose name was Bowl of Flowers. Cold April. On the Beer Line Trail, I met a Canada goose who stood planted where Richard Street crosses Keefe, alone, looking like someone said they'd be back in an hour and it'd been 2. You grass eater, I said, big stout legs, I know, I do, I know, waiting, wondering, where, so late, why? What if? And then comes 2020. The week before the safer at home order, I watched a bird fight. Sparrows landed ferocious blows with their little wings. I was on the phone calling it. Maurice, these little birds, they're slamming each other into the sidewalk. The next day, we took Max and Dre for their checkups. Got to the vet too early, circled back to Culver's drive-thru for coffee, Max in the back, greedy Dre on my lap. They put our coffees in a 4-cup tray. Dre's rear covered the middle cup holders, and Dre wouldn't budge. When Maurice put the coffee on the ledge above the dash, I winced. If you hit the brakes and it slides off, we'll get burned. You can hold it, can't you? Less than a mile. I leaned over oblivious Dre, straining to keep 2 fingers on the tray, singing an internal song, What If? With a nervous refrain, Prevent. Then Dre saw something out the window and lurched. What, Dre, what? His hind legs slid to the floor where he scuffled and shifted till he retook his place. Now, with him spread all the way out and dangling, it was harder than ever to check the tray. Next, we're turning right, Max sliding a bit behind us. Sly and the Family Stone are on Sirius XM. We're passing Shorewood High School. I want to thank you for letting me be myself again. It's the 1970s, me in high school, you already back from the war. But no, it's now. We're passing Shorewood Fitness Center, just a few blocks to go. The coffee's still in the cups. We have time. We can drink it. We're there. Dre weighs 43 pounds. Max is anxious and keeps jumping off the scale. Dre jumps on. Weigh me again. How do we do this? Max jumps off. Dre jumps on. Finally, we manage. Max weighs 29 pounds. He needs glucosamine for his hips. Dre has an ear infection like last year. It doesn't bother me. Faster. The day goes faster. Pet supplies plus, swabbing Dre's ears at home, and the news. All that was yet to come, pending. Something happened. What's happening? What's next? Well, along the beer line, I walk a lot. Rooftop trunk lines and rusting runs of air duct don't rattle, barely vibrate on Sundays. Gulls perch there. Gulls. They're ubiquitous, same as silent moss. Their screeches are horrible, but I like it when they say, ack. 2 gulls are up there right now. One goes, ack, waits a few beats. Pause. 1, 2, 3, ack. The other one stares. Ack. Uh-oh. Where Elias grinding meets the sidewalk, in the tan fringe of last year's shepherd's purse, feathers. White feathers scattered for half a block. What happened? Something happened. Ack. Bird. Tired bird. Here's a gull, missing a chunk of itself. Not just downy feathers. No, long feathers are gone, and maybe flesh. Bird, tired bird, limping in the street alone, using energy you can't spare. You bend and open your beak to a twig that has to be food, but isn't. I'm sure you can't fly, you can barely walk. Juvenile plumage, but you won't grow up. Something happened. Juvenile, you're limping like an ancient, past 2 cases of spent bottle rockets. In deep summer, sweet summer, the 5th of July. There's an epigram for this that comes from a book called Information, the New Language of Science. Time has been called God's way of making sure everything doesn't happen at once. In the same spirit, noise is nature's way of making sure we don't find out everything that happens. A song for noise. I was there passing by on an April day when industrial gases arrived. A long truck parked on Holton Street, Advanced Die Casting, their new home. I saw tanks secured on the flatbed, primary colors on hazmat signs, warnings and triangles, yellows and reds. The delivery was almost over. It was something that happened, an event, so I marked it. Goodbye, welding gases, I said. Cordial to cylinders in my rearview mirror. Visit again sometime soon. I could have said goodbye to the driver, too. Said goodbye, unloaders and signs. Goodbye, tires. Goodbye, pebbles caught in the tread. Rolling away to where? When to leave off, to wrap it up. When nothing's really over. It's a never-ending, all at once, overlapping onrush. Something happened. What happened? What's next? This one is called The Old Ways. So many atmospheres to perceive when it gets quiet. Sometimes on 17th Street, I hear a train. Though active lines aren't really near, I know. Then the feel of a dusty depot, late August and April. I lose myself in golden wheat fields, gracing the box of Triscuits on the counter. Color lithography has not entirely lost its power. Leaving the wheat field where Triscuits are born, I lose myself again in a halftone of mud-colored raisins on another box. A picture on the outside showing what's inside. 15 sticky ounces of raisins. Lion brand. Lion raisins? That's funny. But don't laugh at the lion and the logo. He's in profile. The flow of his mane modeled with simple strokes, just line art. Just line art, it's enough to show lion is stable and strong. Run out of raisins? It cannot happen. Speaking of line art, I just wanted to acknowledge the artist I worked with, Sarah Gale Luther. I really wanted this to be an illustrated book, and I had not met her before. She was recommended to me by the artist that did the cover for my first book, and she just seemed to intuitively know what I wanted for this book, and I was real excited to work with her. This is a song for coincidence. There was a hot, strong wind one day, no clouds in the whitish sky. I saw grasshoppers blown clear off their feet. They left the pavement scudding sideways a foot or more before the wind let them down again. How often does that happen? Was it apocalyptic to them? Painful? Scary? Or was it fun? Before that day, I'd never witnessed a thing like that. Then 2019, September comes to bring a hot wind that finds me, eyes open in the right place at the right time. And I'm going to close this act, as DeWitt says, the poem called On Hubbard Street. April. My new friend is the northern end of Hubbard Street. Hubbard is a homely name. Old Mother Hubbard's bare cupboard, fall wagons heaped with warty squash. Hubbard Street comes near my house, too, but the northern end, the terminus, feels like a distant village. By going there this spring, I learned that I need a distant village. It has outskirts, where a copter beanie wind turbine in a warehouse parking lot goes whoop, 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 whoop. June. East Side Stormore is on the outskirts. Not store with an E, not more with an E. We shaved E's off, naming places in the 20th century. Not anymore, too corny. I'm scuffing a heated mix of brown pine needles and litter, a cups and bags and wrappers mix that clogs catch basins and recurs, piling ahead of your same feet in all the summers of your life to appear again across lifetimes, suffusing you with feelings about eternity. Everything simultaneous could be. November. The curbstones are soft-edged along the street, between Stormore and what I call my village proper, where there are 7 houses, residences, modest, and I don't know who lives there. I've dwelt in houses and flats I might have passed, circumstances and years before I lived there. Hubbard Street, I feel something in your ether. You seem to know where I've been. I sense you know where I might be when one day another now turns to then. It's 2 p.m. and the turbine blades whirl, casting shadows on the units of Stormore. Garage doors 29, 30, and 31. Whoop, 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 whoop. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm reading from 3 recent books tonight. I'm not reading all 3 in total. That would be too much. But a few samples to maybe interest you. I want to tell you about this poem. It reminds me of the war that's going on in the Ukraine. And I think that perhaps it might be an appropriate one to read tonight. I wanted to tell you about Patrick Dubois. He's a French priest who has taken an interest in the Holocaust in the Ukraine in World War II, and he has become a forensic anthropologist. And with that team, they have uncovered unmarked graves, and they've been looking for shell casings to identify what's happened. I should give a trigger warning for this. This is not a light poem. Do my Joe Biden thing here. Here, I will write only a little of what I've just read, for I can't read much more. But if you've found this, perhaps you will read the same story as I've just read. But now I'm so sick of it, so devastated, that all I want to do is slough it off on you. But perhaps it will not be so bad when you find it, but I suspect it will be worse, as I've been walking in these graves for years, and though I'm nearly paralyzed, perhaps you'll be able to breathe what you read, what is here, further down. So, a little footnote, I'm reading a chapter in Patrick Dubois' book, Holocaust by Bullets. And the chapter is entitled Busk. This is about a place in the world I'm sure you've never heard of, and though you and I and everyone we've ever known will probably never go to this place, it is still here. If you are like most I've known, you will not finish what is written here. But we are somewhere in the Ukraine, in the village of Busk, where many bones lie, where bullets have entered through skull caps of so many souls. I can't count anymore beyond a certain number, or I'll run away screaming instead of staying calm by you. But I know I am not. But if you saw me here, scribbling this in a comfortable easy chair in an East Side coffee house, sipping a cappuccino, perhaps you wouldn't believe what is here. How could you? In the book I'm reading, the local priest says to his Busk flock on Palm Sunday, "It is only right that Jews should have a tomb." You may want to stop here. I wouldn't blame you at all, even if you said, "I've got better things to do." Of course you do. Later, the French priest and author, Father Patrick Dubois, adds a comment so you can catch your breath. Not a camp, but a country, Ukraine, of graves. The reference is to 17 open pits, mostly mothers' bones, holding tightly to the bones of their infants, with revolver and rifle bullets lodged in each cranium, or at least nearby. It went on, an expression I'll let you work with, the whole summer. It went on the whole summer. They were all killed together. But here's the sticking point. You may want to ask, just how many? If you learn how many and know more are found all over Europe, you might say, oh. But if you don't know, you might say, how do you know for sure? Are you sure? Or why did this happen here? By the way, this is not the beginning, nor is it the most monstrous place in the world, for Busk is still a village with village life, as you might expect, with market day every Saturday. All I remember was the interview of a local who saw everything. Question, did they kill the children or just throw them alive in the pit? Answer, no. They shot everybody. They were all shot together. That's enough for now, isn't it? I'm very sorry to have put this in front of you. For now, you may be in as bad a shape as I am now. But I had to talk to somebody. And I saw you over there and hoped you might listen to what happened one summer in Busk. So the next book is a lot lighter. This is a collection of poems based on a collection of poems by Kenneth Rexroth, who wrote 100 poems from the Chinese. I read the first poem, was so struck by how it was not about a Holocaust, because I'd been teaching and writing about genocide and Holocaust for a decade. And I was so delighted that I took some notes on the first poem. About a year later, I finished the last poem. This is a collection of 114, not 100. 114 doesn't make a good title. So, after reading Mei Yao Qin's An Excuse for Not Returning to Visit a Friend, I wonder, too. Friends drop by to see friends, or so it seems, but I'm not even sure the last time I made some time to see what's up by you every day. I wave and nod, so it's not like I've never stopped by. But now that everyone's as good as gone, I'll admit I don't walk through your backyard and yell to see if you're even here. I've lost you and didn't intend to. But if I end up at one more wake for one more dear dead child, I'll come by you, you bet, just to see what's up by you, old friend. So each poem of Kenneth Rexroth serves as a stimulus for me to write something not about China, but about Milwaukee from a perspective of looking at them through these classical Chinese poets, somewhere between the 8th and 9th century and 13th century. On returning to the river's edge to find my wife's lost tooth, I wait with Mei Yao Qin's Next Door. So always in the title, there's the author, the classical Chinese poet, and the poem I'm working with. Just so there's no concern as I'm making this up. All the neighbors we've ever known have died or moved, so it's not as easy to just cross backyards, say, come on over anytime. To the south, the old professor laid quietly for almost 8 whole days before a cousin thought of even showing up. The new owner built a new wall between the two of us. Across the street, all the widows are buried or left in contempt for husbands out on the lam. To the north, every month the sign invites all who walk by, come live here, upstairs. We know all the dogs very well. After an early March run along the lakefront, I snack on honeydew with Mei Yao Qin's Melon Girl. Thank goodness I don't have to sell poems at the market. By late afternoon, an old woman whispers, buys the whole basket. I walk home happy with 2 fish heads and a melon. After 3 nights of, they're short. After 3 nights of tuna salad, I wonder how we can go on. Then open to find Fish Peddler by Mei Yao Qin. Who out there can chat with someone who cuts fish all day? We must know what we all want as many stand in line. All right then, let's have a pound of jumbo. Up early to see what's left of the moon. I'm bemused when opening to Mei Yao Qin's The Crescent Moon. The neighborhood dogs live mostly in the neighborhood homes, but we know the dog next door lives mostly outside, caged, with nothing to do, even if the moon is blue or new or just rising or mostly waxing. All woofing day, woofing, all woofing night, woofing. He doesn't live there anymore. After dancing with cars along the lakefront, I opened Mei Yao Qin's On the Death of a Newborn Child. I may have to leave unexpectedly, like so many of us will have to do. Not wired, not medicated, not inebriated, not incarcerated, but still I wanted you to know how much of a joy it's been to have those few moments next to you. I didn't want to tell you until now for fear you'd think something else. But just know I'm blessed, even though we're less sure how long any of this will last for any of us here on earth. Overcast skies, fog, scattered rain showers, mortar falling from the front steps, knees aching, I turn a page and find with some regret Miao Chen's sorrow. I too miss all our dead and wonder what they're doing with all that time. Some, I assume, have found their way to heaven. Some might not even know why there is a heaven. My old gadfly from Athens looked forward to visiting with all the dead soldiers and big wigs. Maybe I would too if I didn't think they'd all turn to dust. No one ever makes the trip back for us, not even our dear friends who just might warn us of what's what. I might just go the route of ash rather than wait it out on an old pine box making friends with crawly things. Most of us are dead or on our way, though I'm not sure I'd know just what to do if you up and left so soon. Day of daylight savings. After dreaming a dream I can't forget, I smile when reading Miao Chen's A Dream at Night. I don't imagine I'd ever dream you're gone, as sleep is something I wouldn't ever want. Perhaps I'd drift away after many long nights, but even then I'd prop an eye open just in case you'd drop by to let me know to just let go. By then, I'd better start packing up the bras and blouses and necklaces for the nice neighbors. And one closing poem. There are about 10 or so of these classical Chinese poets. I'm just featuring Miao Chen. After a mile swim, I wonder about lake swims in June, then read Miao Chen's I Remember the Blue River. After the war, I wore fatigues day in and day out. We yacked, and I wept way too much. We ferried all the animals to a new farm in Holland. For adventures, we once prayed all day in Prague. To see the aigrettes, we took a guide far up the river. For a moment, we eyebrowed each other, then wept. Some days these dreams vanish before I even see you over there, still here, becoming better than ever. Now that's the end of Act 1. So we're taking a short intermission. You can stretch, you can see if you can find a drink outside on the street somewhere. There's fresh, cold water in the lobby. We'll be back in about 5 minutes for Act 2. Welcome back, everyone. We're starting Act 2. Some of our wonderful participants in the audience are still finding adult refreshments. The book that I'm reading from is Hello There. Came out last November, and the Council for Wisconsin Writers awarded it the first place in the book competition. So I'm very glad about that. All of these poems are dedicated to those who have died in the world pandemic. It also is a slow, gradual fading away of my wife. And so you might think there's a theme tonight in my work. Everybody's dying. So I do have a long poem about on hearing another poet has died, but it's really long, longer than the other one. So some short poems. And then we'll have a finale which will require your participation. A lot of fun. The way we live. Some still impress us with thick portfolios. Some notice only the waxing moon. If we look somewhere, we'll never see the breezes. If we remember, we can't count all beneath us. The age of terror may never end. Fear keeps us texting, "Where are you?" Is there any place we haven't heard about? On the Black Sea, none of us may eat. I arrived crying, and still do. I only laugh at the blue screen. Every day I hear judges hope for any reduced sentence. It's harder to know for sure unless your boot fills my breath. Sure, everyone is a friend, but no one speaks anymore. Don't be certain what you see. Don't regret what's been whispered. Go ahead, dream, but don't be scared. Soon, that's all we'll do. Someday the rains will fall inside our homes, cold baths day and night, then we'll escape to the roof, only to see the sea everywhere. The axis will not change. The clouds evaporate into Greek stars. On our backs, clammy, we'll count how far away we are, knowing we're not there yet. This one's called Goodbye, in case I have to go. If I had to leave immediately, unexpectedly, as I have to go now, no time to even pack, I'd want to say how much I enjoyed all of you, from top to bottom, every day, along with everything else you've ever done. But I did want to say, and don't take this like you will, which you probably will, but next time perhaps we should have more dogs and fewer cats. But that's just what I've been thinking about as I'm rushing out of the house, not even realizing that I'm not going to be rushing out of the house anymore, ever, as I'm about to be exited, as someone might say, or dusted, or mowed down, or simply passed over. And now I'm even wondering, what the heck is passed over supposed to mean? But then it doesn't really matter, does it? As this is it, sweetheart. And I only hope all those walks we took outside our little hotel in Florence, or even on the beach in the Yucatan, well, it was fun, wasn't it? Of course I have to go now, as I'm not expected to know what to expect, but something dreadful is going to happen. And if it doesn't, I'll be forever grateful that I have been even one more moment with you. But that's asking way too much, knowing what may have already happened without even knowing what's already happened. I know this is probably a goodbye, though I really didn't mean forever, just until dinner or drinks sometime this evening. I'm not really that serious type of fellow. A day like this Who would have thought we would wake, think of ourselves as lucky to still be around? After the thunderstorm, all I want is the fresh, wet earth, the tiny tomatoes we can eat all at once. Crows outside our house will never leave us. As we unpacked, Harry says to Grace, "Watch them, never let them think they can throw us out." When I breathe, why think of anything? Why would anyone want anything, say, today? The field of napalm. Mostly it's gone forever, but when I think of it, I remember how the bombs floated so gracefully before everything shuddered. And I was miles away, holding binoculars. Am I still the one sweating in a flak jacket? When is it that I will feel the opening of a rose? Or you? This day, all I see is the light filling our little room, thinking all of it is a particle of this and then. Life without you. Once on the other side, no more, "Hello, dear," to hear, "Hello." There'd be the cat, of course, and maybe another one just to make a home with two instead of one. What will I do with all these clothes, all of them hanging downstairs, each perfumed with you? Everywhere there'd be you, and all the rooms, things you'd have done all these years. The sheets. Who would decide the colors of the sheets this week? That was always up to you. Maybe I'd sleep more. No more up and down old boards creaking through the night. All those saved TV shows. Who wants to see all those murderers show up again? Maybe I'll take some of the blue ones. What do the blue ones do? There's a drawer full of underwear. There's more downstairs. Some arrive just in the mail. If I could have nothing, then maybe I'll just look at your diamond ring. No trips to the burial grounds. Been there once. That's enough. Maybe I'll rent a movie. No need to whisper if you're not here. Maybe I'll just start to walk. Maybe I can walk all the way to work. You're right. I'll start dusting. Maybe the blue sheets will do. All right, now we need some audience participation. I'll tell you what we're doing. There's a closing line in this poem, is "How amazing." So we want to practice how to say that as a chorus. So let's try this. How amazing. And that was just terrible. Because if something is amazing, you wouldn't say, "How amazing." Let's try this again. How amazing. All right, I'll try to do something to let you know. The poem is entitled, "How Amazing." Sometimes, before the gray sets in, before the late afternoon quietly eases down and the doves lament whatever has not yet been, it's then that I wonder, like Mother, how many more of these days anyone keeps together as one comes and then another and then another, and pretty soon one can't remember anything anybody's ever done. So why does it take so long to just finish what we started? But most of us don't have any idea what that was, or even anything that was. Perhaps that's it. We're just here to keep everything moving until one forgets what there is to move. So now all we're able to do is so simple, just count the dust that floats forever by in such thin light, and it's then we know nothing really is quite what we say it is, even if we all say, "How amazing." Thank you. Next up is Sue.
Okay, so the second section of the book opens with a really old poem. It's got to be at least 14 years old. I had it in my first book, and then I found myself writing the sequel to it many years later. On these acres, I walk down Holton Street Sunday as the sun goes down early, tender with color in the gravity of mid-November. Advanced die castings, overhead doors, and recessed exits are silent. From one, an illuminated doorbell watches the western sky with me. Its wheat-colored beam is sentimental as the rural late autumn of calendars, a cabin and white-tail bucks with hooves and a light crust of snow. The half-timbered tavern on Richard Street is sentimental too. Once thousands of auto workers parked across the street. Every 8 hours on these acres, hundreds of ignition keys were turned, wrists and wrists revolving clockwise together. The tavern windows are crowded with pimpled aloe plants and cactus, and one has a faded cutout of Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's decades old, from Commando or Terminator, shows we saw at Northtown, The Budget, or Mill Road, which are gone. Everyone loved hearing Arnold say, "Hasta la vista." We laughed because he was oblivious, unblinking as cycles or laws, when he was sent by the losers of the future to go back and revise the past. On these acres, slight return. I've walked past Valence for so many years, going to the Co-op and Goodwill. Today I see the windows aren't the same. The meandering aloes, dozens, were moved to a table, leaving broad ledges bare for the first time. It's July, yet peering in I see winter fun. Sleds and happy polar bears on the oilcloth skirting the table. No holiday decorating, no customers. This is deep cleaning, enough to pause the succession of tavern seasons. On the Walmart-facing ledge, there's one thing only, a lawn statue of St. Francis, which wasn't there before. Why hoist him to the window, a statue made for gardens? To mop from wall to wall, that's my guess. And this is Google, slight return, St. Francis of the Bronx. Later, St. Francis was set outside by a planter in the boarders' chairs to pass the summer with begonias and ornamental grass. How do I know St. Francis? From garden centers, sure, but more because my mother was a fan. Saints were art history to her, nothing more, except for Francis, who loved creatures, knowing actual goodness. Every time she tossed seeds onto the flagstones in our yard, my mother said, "St. Francis," out loud as sparrows came. And now I know how it started. A note in the New Yorker, 1949. Google it, St. Francis of the Bronx. A night watchman at the Bronx Botanical Gardens fed birds at his own expense. So long and faithfully, talk of the town dubbed him St. Francis of the Bronx. I just know she read it, and a link was forged. Birdseed, birds, St. Francis, every time. And lately I do it too, another link in the chain, mouthing St. Francis silently, loading my feeders. See you on the other side. Even last summer, it seemed Valence was set to close. Then the Rona moved things up. In March, management taped an autographed picture of a young Aaron Rodgers in the window. Number 12 with his dimpled smile, virile stubble, cute. In magic marker in a dialogue balloon on his right, it said, "Closed due to the Mar-a-Lago 19 virus. Stay well." And Valence says, "Thanks for the memories." On his left, see you on the other side. Is the other side an after, a future, a time, or land or country without the virus? With our quarterback and a Sharpie, as he retired, a tavern keeper conjured a wilderness ahead, crossings, things foreseen or not, fares for silent ferrymen, and tolls, maybe many. Where we sit now, Aaron Rodgers will host Jeopardy for 2 weeks. Aaron Rodgers isn't sure about his future with Green Bay. SARS, COVID, AKA Rona, thanks for the memories. We were all there. Aaron Rodgers played at his all-time best in 2020, even without fans in the stands. Thanks for the memories. Crossing. Always feathers on the ground, seeds, aluminum dust, the fruiting bodies of moss, loose spores, and a snood on the grass near the pretzel bakery. Refuse, tiny rubbish, subdivisions of things that were bigger. Because something always happens, things happen. Gulls keep it lively here, but what is it? What's lively? Developments. What's next? April comes. St. Francis gone, the aloes gone, flower pots and saucers nested in milk crates, bagged vermiculite and bamboo stakes, sprayers and cat litter buckets, on the sidewalk one day for the taking. You know what I found that same week on the ground 4 blocks away? A blue box crammed with tinsel, labeled Valent. Jaunty lettering with flourishes in the same hand as Aaron Rodgers' speech balloons. I wandered into this tale. I followed clues, going to the store, going home, observing. Now I'm telling you, and you're in it too, and you can't be the same as before. On Richard Street in December 2020, I saw 8 geese, excuse me, 2 on the snowy ground and 6 in flight. They were on a card that lay in the street facing up, a picture fine and haunting as a waterfowl stamp, the snow so fresh it covered each blade of grass, the sky literally sky blue, and the pair in the foreground fat and ready. It wasn't soiled, hadn't been stepped on. Who dropped it? And that evening I saw a bandwagon, too. A van pulled the flatbed onto the street carefully, turning easy so the musicians wouldn't lurch. They wore Christmas outfits, and it was a mild night. There's no one to play for north of Keefe. They were headed for the River West bars. So very long since they'd played inside. When I passed, they were quiet, making small adjustments, thinking ahead, hoping. Their Venmo, Cash App, and PayPal painted on the side. I'll be back. Roth's isn't Roth's now either. It's being fixed up. No Budweiser logo, no The Place to Go in lovely cursive, and no bare-chested, weapon-cradling Arnold. It's April 2021, and there's particle board in the windows. Did you know the Terminator was dispatched from the year 2029? That's soon. In any case, the temperature soared to 75 degrees today. My feet are hot in socks as I head home with potatoes from Aldi to see a wonder on the newly surfaced lot. A dark-skinned man stroking a dog? More like an expanse, spread out like a bull sea lion with subcontinent-sized brown spots. Nice to soak up some sun and spoil your dog, I say, and he agrees. His bulldog rises. I could praise his jowls every day for the joy they brought me, because simple joys last the best. Everyone loved it when Arnold said, "I'll be back." We wander into tale after tale, always following clues. What is it we move in other than air? After and before and after, and now, of course. She rides in the middle between her abstract siblings. Thank you.
So we've come to the end of Act 2. We want to say thank you to the crowd and Crowdcast. I think there are more out there than here. That's wonderful. We want to know if there's any questions from the Crowdcast or any thoughts or reactions that you might have had for what you've heard. Oh.
I'm sorry, one second. Can I hand you this microphone here? This way that people on Crowdcast can hear.
That's right. So from your last book, which is about basically departure, and what is so interesting, because again, because our ages, I think, are pretty close, and we are all supposedly, have to make these choices, and every conversation, these issues are coming up. How do you, at one point you need to kind of separate it so to be able to continue. And we can go all the way back to the Ukraine story, right? Which is in Kiev, and there is Babi Yar, there, and we have this history, right? Well, how to say, I personally am a survivor of that, my family is a survivor of that, and something like that. And essentially, we are facing the infinity. And there are no answers. So at one point, we have to separate ourselves from the past, to go ahead. And I think this is what you're basically exercising. You are doing it very consciously so, with a lot of humor, but you cannot avoid being, and like in the arrow of the time, we're saying back and forth between the two things. And it's so interesting that many of the scenes that you are coming up with, the imagery, for example, with the trays, right? Or with the underwear or something like that. These are things that have become now the material for novels and television shows and series. For example, I have seen exactly the same thing in a French, in a Spanish movie. This idea that somebody is gone, and you're opening it up, and you think about it, what am I going to do with clothes? Every time I'm opening, I smell, that's right. Who am I going to give it to, Am I just going to be throwing it away? And I think there are no answers to that, except that one consciously has to separate it, and the way you do it, which I know you better, is that you are doing. And when you are doing things, such as even writing the poem, you are doing a beautiful work of separation so that you can continue at the point where we're going to be stopped anyway. And this is why I appreciate.
Good. One philosopher writing about being frustrated by the literature coming out of the Holocaust said there can be no art after Auschwitz.
That's yeah.
And I do dispute that, because most of what we know about the Holocaust and genocide comes through literature. But it's very hard to write about it, but you can also be a witness, not as a participant, not as someone who saw something, but you can use your imagination and remind people of these histories. Any other questions, reactions, thoughts? Yes?
Yes, thank you so much.
Either subliminally or very overtly, I sensed a sense of time movement before, after, between now and saying in a number of ways that time is not necessarily linear, but I'm gathering that just as pieces. Can you comment on that a little further?
Come on up here, Sue, back here.
Well, I'm a science nerd. I read a lot of science, and one of the things that interests me, whether it's time or space, is like, subdivision. Like, when does one thing stop and the next thing start? I mean, that's obviously something addressed in physics, in measurement. It's like, how do you say that this event is over? And of course, any event is composed of, whether it's molecular, atomic, subatomic level, something's always happening. And I just, it's like I like to read a lot about that, and then it just kind of infuses your brain when you're going about your daily business, because I take the same walk over and over and over and over again over the years, and things happen fast, things happen slowly, and it just, it is somewhat of a preoccupation, because who's to say, there's a lot of events going on at any given moment at every level, and it's just something I like to think about and read about, and you feel it on your feet, as you walk about your business.
Anyone else? All right, we're going to go to Act 3. Act 3 is off-site, so take this address down, keep it in your mind. We're going to 3808 North Oakland. So, gas station, condominium complex, and the next block is the little shops, a tattoo shop, a bakery shop, cupcake shop, driver education shop, and across the street is 3808. The driveway will have a lot of candles and lights, and a lit palm tree on loan. You're all invited, because we wanted to sort of celebrate the summer, and hope you can come. Thank you. Thank you all. On your way out, you can see lots of books by these two readers. I have chapbooks and books, and Sue has her first book. So we had this reading so you could buy books, or at least look at them and pretend you're going to buy them. But thank you all.